We're so happy you could all come. Of course, it's all because of our wonderful speaker, Marissa Streit from PragerU. So you're going to in for a great talk a little bit later today. And we have a little video that's going to happen too as part of that presentation. This room is so crowded, and a lot of you had to wait in line over there at the registration table, is that right? So it'd be wonderful. You can see how important it is to register ahead of time online, and then you can skip all of that stuff. So maybe for next month, for this meeting, or Conejo, or if you're going down to Orange County, you register online ahead of time. That would be just wonderful. We have a great event for you today, and let me see. We have two bits of business that we're going to do right now. I want to do the pledge and okay. I would like to call up Tom Solari, an award-winning screenwriter and film and video producer, to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you please be seated. So, thank you. Feel like a rabbi. Sit, please stand, please sit, please stand. I also would like very much to thank our sponsor for today's luncheon. It's Jeff and Lori Goldschen. Jeff and Lori, unfortunately, was not able to make it today, but I would like to call Jeff up to do the motzi. We have one here.
There are fellows at your table, right here. Everybody please join me. Baruch atah Adonai,
Amen. So we have Jeff also brought some strictly kosher challahs that are on the paper plates. Also, this morning my wife baked some homemade challahs from our kitchen. They're not strictly kosher, but they're darn good. So I encourage you to have some of those as well. Next, I'd like to call up Bruce Karasik, one of the co-founders of the Jewish Republican Alliance.
Well, welcome everybody. What a great turnout. We're so happy you're all here today. I'm Bruce Karasik, one of the founders of the Jewish Republican Alliance. And filming in the back from TLK Multimedia is my daughter, Tracy Karasik. Another big thank you to Jeff and Lori Goldschen for sponsoring today's event. Thank you, Jeff. Please, another hand. Also, there's two ladies in the back I want to thank. To my wife, Judy Karasik, and Stephanie Silverman, thank you for your constant dedication and hard work for the Jewish Republican Alliance. Thank you to Mark, Hazel, Joyce, your whole team that helped put this all together. Thank you very, very much for that. The JRA always likes to honor our veterans. But today, December 7th, 2018, marks the 77th anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. On that tragic day, Japanese warplanes started an historic assault on the Pacific Fleet that would leave over 2,000 Americans dead and throw us into World War II. But with each passing year, the remaining numbers of those who survived the attack are dwindling. But our job and responsibility of all Americans is to never forget those brave men and women who sacrificed everything for their country. Therefore, it's only fitting and proper that we dedicate today's luncheon to the memory of what is now commonly called the greatest generation, and specifically those people who lost their lives in Pearl Harbor. Now, as many of you know, I have boy-girl twins that go to Westlake High School. Now, I would be very surprised if any of their teachers mentioned Pearl Harbor today. I would be shocked. But it's our responsibility to educate our kids on things that are not being taught in the schools. I always tell them, don't let school interfere with your education. And that is one of the reasons why I love Prager University. In 5 minutes, they educate and enlighten those who watch their videos to conservative ideas with an open mind. Each video is powerful, well-crafted, and our family has used these videos many times to help educate our kids against left-wing indoctrination in the schools, who have forced our kids to watch movies, music, television, all the things that are having one point of view. So thank God for Prager University. Yeah, please. Now I get text messages all the time from my kids. Dad, what do I say when they say something like, extreme? I'm getting some feedback here. It's the mic. Okay. And so I usually give them some ways to respond, or I refer them to a Prager University video. And then I follow up with them and say, well, so what did your friends say after you told them things that they may never have heard? And Dad, well, they didn't know how to answer any of that stuff. And so I get other calls, and my son calls me and says, now that he's being educated, Dad, you'll never guess what I had to deal with today. They were talking about white privilege and how I should feel badly for being white, and I don't understand people's race. And Dad, you know what I said to them? I said, if you keep focusing on race and everything's about race, isn't that true racism? I was never more proud. So the Jewish Republican Alliance is fighting alongside of Prager University. We're uniting and energizing conservatives to take action on behalf of America and Israel. We are creating communities like this one with our chapters and the focus on fellowship, education, and networking, and bringing important speakers to help educate our members and our guests, building friendships and business connections. Any one of you could walk up to almost anybody in this room. If you don't know them, you can probably make a friend in 2 minutes because you have so much in common. So I encourage you to do that. But since Dennis Prager spoke to us on October 11th, how many people were there for that? That was an amazing event, really amazing event. We've been getting calls from all over the country to add chapters and to people who say, I want to start a chapter, they're hearing the videos. And so that, along with we're going to start producing some original content in 2019. So big things are happening on the JRA in 2019. So in closing, here's a story you may not have heard. How many people know that President Trump welcomed guests to the White House to help celebrate Hanukkah? So, who he had there was, one of the guests was the family of Meadow Pollock. It's a Jewish family. She was killed in the Parkland shooting. And so, President Trump said, you honor us with your presence and you inspire us with your courage. We cannot imagine your sorrow, your pain. He also invited Meadow's dad, Andrew, to speak. And Andrew Pollock spoke about the spirit of Hanukkah, about the story of the Maccabees. He praised the Maccabees for, this is all taking place in the White House, against all odds, restoring the Jewish faith. And he said the Jewish people would not have survived if the Maccabees had lost. They have a special place among the Jewish people because they never stopped fighting for God and our future. So Pollock then went to praise Trump, and he said, you are the greatest friend that the Jewish people have ever had in the White House. And the audience began chanting, Trump, Trump, Trump. So the president got up to speak, and there was Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, Jewish, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, Jewish, and also Sheldon Adelson, a big Jewish contributor.
No question.
But what moved me was President Trump specifically noted that his daughter Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, were there. And then President Trump said this: "I am so proud that the Jewish faith is so deeply woven in the fabric of my family. It's a great honor." He then called on the shooting at the synagogue in Pittsburgh, and he vowed to fight the vile poison of anti-Semitism. He said, "Throughout our history, we have seen that no darkness can overcome the light of the Jewish faith, and that no evil can overcome the unbreakable spirit of the Jewish people." Now that's a president who supports Israel. So you will not hear those amazing words of support from the for the Jewish people from President Trump on the mainstream media, will you? No. But you will hear them at a JRA event. So I'm glad you're all here. I'm wishing you all a happy Hanukkah. To my Christian brothers and sisters, a Merry Christmas, and thank you all for being here.
So I'm going to start to speak here. Hopefully you can all hear me. If you can't hear me back there, just do like this. One of the blessings of founding the Jewish Republican Alliance, meeting the fellow conservative warriors that are out there. And so many of you are in the room with us. And it's actually... Okay. It's actually very heartening to know that we're not alone. Because sometimes don't we feel like we're all alone? Mm-hmm. So I got a special gift. Bruce doesn't even know about this. But I got a special gift from a very solid JRA member all the way from Israel. What does it say? This is a yarmulke. This is from Simone Gold, Dr. Simone Gold, all the way from Israel. Is that awesome? And based on what Bruce just said, our president obviously is anti-Semitic. I mean, who could doubt that, right? Jewish children, Jewish grandchildren, moves to the embassy. But you know, don't let reality get in the way of our agenda, do we? But it has been really heartening. I mean, I see in the room here so many fellow warriors because we cannot do this alone. But we're all on the same path, but coming in from different angles. So we have Rebecca Friedrichs here standing up to Goliath. She's a future JRA speaker. Obviously, we have the CEO of PragerU. We have Gary Amanoff, who is the chairman of the board of the American Freedom Alliance. And I know Tom. So I mean, we have so many people here. So you are not alone. And if you were, how many were at the Prager event again? Okay, so I want to share something with you. As Bruce eloquently put it, it was the largest gathering at a Jewish Republican event in United States history. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And it was, for those of you who have seen Dennis many, many times, was he different that night? Yeah. He was different. So we went to his Torah Minyan. He has a great Torah Minyan. And it's a great service. At the end, we did the prayers, we had potluck, and he turns around and says, "Are Bruce and Mitch here?" He goes, "Come on up here." And in front of the whole congregation, he says, literally, he goes, "What is the JRA?" And he handed me the microphone. "Why did you found it? How long has it been? What are you different from the other groups?" I mean, he literally, and he told the group, he said, "I've been speaking live all over the world for 30 years. He goes, I don't talk about my speeches. He said, I have never been in front of a group like that in my life." And I think Kim was saying he mentions it all the time on his show. So there was something very special that happened that night, not because of Bruce and me or although Stephanie and Judy did all the work to make it pull it off at a great event, but because of you, because we have a commonality of values, okay? He speaks in front of groups all the time, all over the world, but there's something very special, and I'm going to use a Yiddish word, very Hamish, I'll tell you what that is in a second, very Hamish about the Jewish Republican Alliance. Which means there's a certain warmth, there's a certain fervor, there's a certain passion that is present at almost all JRA events, and you're part of that today. So we had a big 2018. We were at the Larry Elder event. We just had a lot of great things. We had a lot of big plans for 2019, but we had a little bit of a setback in California November 6th, didn't we? Okay. Did anyone besides me feel a little disheartened? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. But you know what? We're here. We're back together again. We can't give up the fight. There is too much at stake, which is why we do the JRA. After the Prager event, we had literally requests from all over the country to open chapters. And we are intent on doing that. We are very intent on doing that because there is too much at stake. And speaking of that, very quickly, I'm sure you all know Charles Krauthammer, okay? Stephanie, my beautiful wife, bought me this for Hanukkah. His latest book, like fresh off the press, he died earlier this year, so his son compiled it. But I want to just share with you a couple of things that are so relevant to why we're here today, what we're doing. Okay, put this down. So I'll speak very loud, but okay, thank you. So it says here, democracy leaves the goals of life entirely up to the individual, where the totalitarian state decrees life's purpose. Isn't that true? And then this other part is just so relevant to what we're doing today, what PragerU does, what Rebecca does, what Tom does, what AFA does, Charlie Kirk, another JRE speaker. This is great. He says, do you think history is cyclical or directional? And this was a really big question. If you haven't read The Rational Bible, Dennis's book, Exodus, it's unbelievable. He talks about the very concept. So do you think history is cyclical or directional? Are we condemned to do the same damn thing over and over, generation after generation, or is there hope for some enduring progress in the world order? And this is Krauthammer's answer. I don't know. No one knows if history has an arrow. No one knows the future or the destiny of mankind, but one thing I do know is that if history does have an arrow towards progress, it is not by random chance. It is because of the great efforts and works and sacrifices of good men and women trying to make the world a little better for their children to inherit. Isn't that what we're all here for? Thank you. Yes. That's what we're all here for. So I'm thrilled you're all here. I'm so grateful to Jeff and Lori for sponsoring. If you want to be a future sponsor for upcoming lunches, please talk to Bruce or Judy or myself or Stephanie. But I say it over and over again, there is so much at stake now for our children and our grandchildren. How many of you have children and they told you something that happened at school that just horrified you? And I don't mean a fighter or a bully. I mean that you just were shocked, okay? Rebecca knows that better than anybody. You have to hear about her at a future JRA event, standing up to Goliath. So there is so much at stake for our children and our grandchildren, and now more than ever, we need you to get involved. We need you to join, because conservative activism is what's really needed to get this country back where it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch and Bruce. They always speak so eloquently at every one of our JRA meetings, and we have another one coming up in Conejo Valley. Right, and when is that in January? The next one, or is it? Okay. Well, okay. So we have here, but we also have a chapter in Conejo Valley, and I just want to encourage you, if you live out in that area, to also attend those meetings. You will be every bit as fulfilled as you are here today. Speaking of filled, the room is filled, and so I do want to. I think their names were mentioned a little earlier, but Joyce. Where's Joyce? Joyce, right, there you are. Joyce, if you got a phone call about coming here today, it was either Joyce or Hazel. Where's Hazel? Please raise your hand. There we go. Joyce or Hazel who called you. I just want to thank the two of you for helping spread the word. Speaking of spreading the word, and this is kind of the accident of I guess not talking about your conservative leanings, but it just so happens. As I'm walking in today, somebody comes up to me, a woman, and she says, "Are you Mark?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "Do you recognize me?" Remind me. So Dee Dee Katz, right there, she and I went to elementary school together. We didn't know that, first off, she saw my name, I guess, on the literature, and so this is how she knew to look for me, but how many more people, oh, and by the way, also Cheryl Freeman over here, also I knew from elementary school, but she's been here before, but yeah, you have, I know I've seen you here before, I've seen you one of these things, at Prager, there it was. So, I just want to encourage you to reach out to people who you don't know. I mean, how many people have had the experience of, wait a minute, you're one of us? Right? Because we're all so careful about talking about our political leanings. I just want to encourage you to be a little bit more bold. I give you permission if you were waiting for it. And so do that. I think you might find more people who think like you. You can have opportunities to meet and talk together and finally feel relieved, the kind of relief that you feel here today.
Speak from my heart. And on that note, I just want to mention real quick how grateful I am as an American Jew to have a group like this, because it's unbelievably encouraging to be amongst Jewish people who support conservative ideas, who are grateful to our president and the current administration for what they've done. Hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll get to know me a little bit better, and you'll find out that I'm Israeli. And I think that what our president is doing for Israel is unbelievable. When I speak to people at the White House, I hate that I have to put my head down for a minute and say how embarrassed I am that the Jewish community is not grateful for what our president is doing. And it's nice to have a group like this that is filled with gratitude and acknowledgement for how much courage it takes for a politician today to stand for Israel. And I know how much courage it takes for all of you to be a conservative, and some of you are more outspoken than others, but it's an unbelievable feeling for me to be amongst people who are instantly family, because there are such few of us. I guess that's what it feels like to be a real minority, right? Okay, so as promised, I was going to talk a little bit about myself and my background and how I got to become the CEO of Prager University. And through that, I'll walk you through how Prager University became what it is today. By the end of this year, we're expecting to reach 1 billion views. Yay. It's pretty exciting. So, as I mentioned, you may pick up on my accent. I'm an Israeli. There are three things that I'd like to share about myself. I was born in the United States, so I'm an American. I really love this country. And I don't just say it. I love what this country stands for. Diversity, equality, not only liberty, but equality, right? We all have equal opportunity. All these things that America was built upon are things that I feel are worth fighting for. And fighting for things is not always that easy. Second thing I want you to know about me is that I'm a mom. I have 3 kids under the age of 6. So I have a 9-month-old baby Aaron, I have a 3-year-old Olivia, and I have a 6-year-old Aiden. It is hard to be away from them. I travel quite a bit. I just got back from Texas. I was in Dallas and Houston this past week. I travel a lot. I have the opportunity to invite my mom here today, who basically raises my kids. For those of you who are parents or grandparents, I'm sure you know it takes a village. It is a sacrifice that I make, and it is a sacrifice worth making, because I don't want them to grow up in a country that's any less than the country that we have right now.
Yeah.
This is an unbelievable country, and I think many of us are feeling like the freedoms and the opportunities that some of you had growing up and I had growing up will escape us and will not be given to our children if we don't fight for them. And my fight is for my children, selfishly, but it's also for this country, because I do love it and I appreciate it. And the third thing I want to tell you about me is that I'm an Israeli ninja. And what do I mean by that? So I was born in the United States, and I was raised in Israel. And when I was 16 years old, we received a brown envelope. I still remember that day. I was summoned for testing. And I don't know if some of you may know better than me, if the high schools communicate with the Army, but somehow they knew to start testing me, just to figure out where to put me in the Army. I was about half the size I am now, so even skinnier. Clearly, running around with guns was not my strong suit. But very quickly, after multiple tests, and I remember some of the tests, analytical and language. I do speak some French. My English was pretty strong because I was American. And my math was strong, and they started testing me. Eventually, I guess they figured out where I should go. On my 18th birthday, I got 5 birthday gifts, 2 shots on this arm, 3 shots on this arm. I joined the military. I did 10 days of basic training because they knew exactly where to send me. I served in a small unit called 8200 intelligence. I don't know if anybody is familiar with 8200. In Hebrew, Shmona Matayim, small unit. I don't remember anything I did there. Don't ask me any questions. But I did about 3 months of training in 8200, which was super interesting, and I got amazing life skills from that. Mostly, in my unit, we were tasked with figuring out how to keep a very small country at existential threats safe. And we were taught to think outside the box. How do we solve really complicated problems utilizing technology, creativity, and just turning things upside down? So I guess in some ways they kind of created a monster. I will walk into any place and I'll be like, this could be more efficient if you move things around. I had a funny experience this past week in Dallas. I arrived at an airport and there were 300 people in line for the check-in at the hotel. I'm like, if you would give everybody a ticket with a number and seat everybody down, this would be more efficient, but that kind of was the monster they created. In some ways, in many ways, it gave me a very interesting life skill, which is how do you look at things differently? How do you solve problems? I'm not a great public speaker. I'm not a fast runner. I'm a terrible singer. My strong suit is that I'm a very hard worker and that I know how to look at things and analyze them and say, hey, this is how we solve this. So fast forward a few years after serving in the military for 2 years, came back to the United States. I went to UCLA, figured I'm good at math. Math is easy, studied economics. While at UCLA, I also taught in school. I was a Hebrew school teacher, and I loved it. I love kids. Frankly, I like kids more than I like adults. Especially, I like kids more than I like leftist adults. So, they're not quite leftists. By the time they graduate college, most of them are. Studied there, and then decided that because I love kids so much, and I have these kind of management skills, I decided to become a headmistress of a school. So I got a master's in management and a master's in education. I still remember that I didn't understand politics so well, but I do remember that in the textbooks they recommended, this is if you're getting a master's in education, this is how deep the indoctrination is. If you're getting a master's in education, you will get a book that says you should listen to NPR every morning before you walk into class so that you're better equipped on how to teach your children, right? Because everything at NPR is what you should be teaching your kids. I still remember that it didn't quite register with me at that point. But fast forward a few years later, I realized how dangerous that is. Graduated with my master's, with my double master's, and became a headmistress of a small school in Manhattan Beach. Over there, I was exposed to all kinds of wonderful reasons why we have a generation that never hears a different point of view, right? I was taught that, I remember having major discussions and conflicts about how do we teach Israel? Oh, we got to show the other side. They're both morally, there's moral equivalency between what the Palestinians are doing and what the Israelis are doing. And therefore, if you're talking about Israel, you got to also talk about, what Israel's doing to the Palestinians. For me, that was obviously a challenge. I remember being taught that we have to teach them about global warming. And global warming being scientifically proven is one of the biggest challenges and threats to the world today. Not Islamic terrorism, of course. It's global warming that's going to kill us all. And then there was the last straw that just completely broke me in the world of education, and that was when I could not fire a horrible teacher, but I could fire a plumber at home. How can you put a person in front of kids that can get away with literally anything, and not be allowed to fire them? It's unbelievable. How do you and then you have a small budget too, so then what are you stuck with? So I hate to say that it's hopeless, but it was pretty hopeless. It was really, really upsetting to see what we're putting in front of our kids. A few months later, I got a call from someone who knew me from the world of education and said, hey, have you ever heard of Dennis Prager? Would you consider a meeting? Would you consider working with Dennis Prager? In between that, I worked for a few months with the Israeli American leadership, the IAC. So I got a little experience in fundraising, and when I met with Dennis Prager and Alan Estrin, I heard their idea. Alan Estrin came up with this idea. Dennis Prager is the great explainer, right? He's unbelievable at explaining. He'll take a book this long and in 5 minutes, you'll just get the point out of there, and you'll be completely clear on what you should learn from the book. So they basically came up to me and said, look, you're going to be a general without an army. That is literally what Alan Esrin said. We want to produce these 5-minute videos with Dennis Prager so that we can change the world. And we want to make them free so that we're not preaching to the choir. Because if we sell them, then only conservatives will buy them. How do you take this content and make the world aware that there is an idea that they've never heard before, and possibly change minds and possibly our minds? And I'm like, okay, I guess I could try it. I could try to solve that problem. The 3 of us sat there. There was an editor that we had. There were 4 of us. This was in 2011. And I remember we released our first video on the Middle East problem. And we just started jumping up and down because we had 35,000 views on that video. Can you imagine a classroom of 35,000 people? That is unbelievable. Today, if we reach, Lucy and Lane are here, part of the PragerU staff. If we reach 35,000 people on a video, I think we can call it a failure. Today, we reach about 5-7 million. Last year, after 2 years ago, I'll tell you an awesome story about one of the videos that has gone completely viral after Donald Trump was elected. We produced a video on what is the Electoral College. Any of you seen that video?
Yeah.
What is the Electoral College? So we produced this video with Tara Ross. Honestly, I thought it was totally boring. I was like, really? This is not marketable, and I'm always thinking about marketability, but it was an important idea. And then Donald Trump got elected, and everybody started going crazy. NPV, national vote, it should be just based on majority. The Electoral College is archaic. We should abolish the Electoral College. And then we started putting money, we put some gasoline into that car. We started putting money into that video and advertising it, and it just took off. It went viral, 52 million views within 2 weeks. That's the power of the internet. And that's what we would call at 8200 in my unit in Israel. That's what we call problem solving, right? with little means. The conversation about the Electoral College immediately stopped. Nobody heard about abolishing the Electoral College anymore, and we realized that we have unbelievable influence. We have unbelievable opportunity. Some of the things that we're looking at is for our competitors. So yes, all the things that I'm saying to you are really exciting. We've had unbelievable success. The left is still winning. The left is still bigger. I want to tell you about an organization called AJ Plus. Anybody knows what AJ Plus is?
No.
Okay. You're going to leave today probably more scared of AJ Plus than most things. AJ Plus is a short for Al Jazeera. Anybody heard of Al Jazeera? Yeah. Okay, so Al Jazeera is a network funded by a family in Qatar. They do not share our values. You will be surprised that they are unbelievably focused on changing young minds in America. And they are basically the PragerU of the left, funded by Al Jazeera. They call themselves AJ Plus because AJ Plus is a lot more convincing and a lot easier for young Americans and people on the West to want to look at. I bet you if you have Facebook and you go on Facebook, you'll find out that actually some of your friends are followers of AJ Plus because they don't know that AJ Plus is actually Al Jazeera. But AJ Plus produces content that teaches people that Israel is bad, that the Palestinians are oppressed, that Antifa, do you know what Antifa is? According to AJ Plus, Antifa is a group that is keeping Donald Trump and his white supremacists in check because they are freedom fighters. Okay? Now, why do they care to influence our people? I guess I can leave that up to you, right? But they're unbelievable influencers, unbelievable influential. We reach at Prager University on Facebook about 4 million viewers a day. AJ Plus reaches about 40 million viewers a day. Okay? Anti-capitalism, pro-socialism. You know what? You don't have to believe me. Watch. I put together a few clips for you so you can see firsthand what they're teaching. is the sign. This is the time. I hope you can see this. Cute.
Bear with me.
It's also scary. Yeah, very. How are you?
Happy Monday! White people know that police brutality is happening. Many of them just don't care because they know it won't happen to them.
Not to brag, but we have the most incarcerated people in the world. God bless the prison industrial complex.
Basically, white feminism is feminism that ignores intersectionality.
So not all feminists who are white feminists. And we're not just pulling the race card. White feminism excludes the experiences of basically anyone who's not white, cis, and straight.
The real man myth also feeds into rape culture, transphobia, and homophobia, meaning it's not good for any of us.
The first year of Trump saw an increase in hate crimes and racist violence. And Antifa has often responded to that threat with violence of their own.
Antifa, short for anti-fascist. It's an umbrella term for a group that shows up at protests to confront neo-Nazis and white supremacists. But for a group that's getting so much airtime for being violent and dangerous, they're not causing that much havoc.
Socialism is when a population collectively owns and controls the means of production and distributes the end result proportionally. Socialist democracies are the happiest countries in the world.
When it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it feels like it's always the same story. Violence is an inevitable result of occupation.
Right across the road over there is the illegal Israeli settlement of Halamish. The presence of those settlers and the many soldiers deployed here to protect them has made life for villagers in Nebi Saleh a living hell.
Pro-life lawmakers are like Confederate Civil War reenactors, a group of angry old white men who get together and try and relive the glory days, no matter how unrealistic.
So, I mean, these are just a few clips. We could spend the whole day. There's just hours and hours of content like this that is seen by millions online. Facebook, Instagram, nobody on our side is doing what Prager University is doing because nobody is fighting these people. There are lots of other organizations who are doing amazing work on campuses and beyond. This is how you reach millions of people and change their minds. They buy stock footage, they go with a camera, they twist the truth, they lie, they present it to young people, they convince their minds, and then we lose our children to the left. That is basically what's happening. And by the way, the indoctrination is cradle to grave. We just walked into Barnes and Nobles a few weeks ago. There's still one in Calabasas here. There's a whole display of books. I have a 9-month-old child, as I mentioned, and a 3-year-old. We're starting to teach the letters. Remember, A is for apple, B is for ball, and on all the normal things that you teach their child. Has anybody seen A is for activist over there? Hard. A is for activist, L is for LGBTQ, F is for feminist. I don't want to encourage you to give them money and buy the book, but you should go take a look at it. I'm not making this up. This sounds like this sounds like a joke, but it's for real. There's no more A is for apple. Now, or B is not for boy. There are no boys.
And those are the pro-science crowd.
Yeah, I mean, this is how deep the indoctrination is, and the internet is how you get to millions of people rapidly. That is the solution. That is that 80-100 solution of how do we change minds quickly with small means. We don't have the entire country of Qatar behind us, but we do have some stuff. We have people like you and people who support Prager University. 40% of Prager University's budget comes in from the very audience that we are trying to reach. So we bring in 40% of our income, and Lane, our CFO, who's here, he can shake his head and attest to that. It is pretty amazing. We're going to raise about $9 million this year. So I think there are very, very few nonprofits who can say that actually raise money from the target audience, and it's something to be proud of. We do these brand lift surveys we do brand lift surveys, and we just do surveys in general to see that what does 1 billion views even mean? Are people changing minds? Are they moved by it? How do we know that what we're doing is working? So every few months, our chief marketing officer, Craig Strazzeri, who is a genius in marketing, he really is, puts together his team and asks a few questions of our audience. And by the way, we don't necessarily survey the people whose emails we have, because those are we assume are the diehards. We just survey people who've watched 1 or 2 videos online, and we ask them what age range are you? 60% of our audience is under the age of 34.
Wow.
And that is our goal, right? That is really our goal. Of course, all people are informed, but at Prager University, the goal is to fight what the left is doing with young minds. 16% of our respondents said that they changed the way they voted in the last election. That is remarkable, because think about how much money is going into elections, and is the needle moving over there, and how we are moving the needle. So it's remarkable. And by the way, when we do a survey, does anybody know what generally when people do surveys, how many people they serve? That's about 1,000, and then they call it an actual survey. To me, that sounds really little, and standard deviation would be unbelievable. So we actually serve, we usually serve our surveys to 10,000 people. So it gives us a little, hopefully a more accurate read on what's happening. 78% say that we've changed their minds on at least one given issue. Frankly, I think a big issue that we've changed a lot of minds on is Israel. I got a phone call from somebody at in Israel, Misrad Hachutz, Israel's foreign ministry, and they didn't realize that I was Israeli. I'm like, I'm Israeli, we can speak in Hebrew. But they called me, and they specifically said, what you guys are doing is probably better than most pro-Israel organizations, because our audience is not Jewish or Israeli. So we're not called Israel.com. We do videos on 52 different topics, and a few of them happen to be on Israel. So we don't have an audience that in no case we're preaching to the choir on no issue, because we have such diverse issues. Yes, we're always conservative and pro Judeo-Christian, American values, but we've moved a lot of people who've never heard positive things about Israel more towards Israel because of the diversity of our content. So 78% in our survey mentioned that we've changed their minds on at least one given issue, and 98% said that they've referred to Prager University content when engaging in a given discussion. And I can personally relate to that, because I am not a great explainer like Dennis Prager. I'm not that type of person who just immediately knows how to articulate my point of view on a given topic. But having a cheat sheet, like a 5-minute video that I can watch real quick and then answer back and sound really smart, is really helpful. And that is something that we want to do for conservatives. So we're looking to change minds, but we're also looking to arm our base and teach the teachers and give everybody in this room a better answer to how do you explain the wage gap? Does the wage gap really exist? What is that perfect answer that you can give to someone in a really nice, calm, loving way, without necessarily losing your cool when you're having conversation with a family member or a friend or a colleague, and just say, hey, I have a question. If you think that 1 out of 4 women are raped when they're sent to college, that's 25% chance. Would you send your child to somewhere where you think there's a 25% chance that they're going to get raped? Like, how does that even make sense to you? I'm totally open to hearing your answer on that, but something may not make sense. So we just try to give people what we call intellectual ammunition, so that we can win this war of ideas. And my friends, this is a war. It is a war. I hate to say it, but it's like a cold civil war that we're going through, and we got to put what we can in order to win. Put everything. I just left Texas. It's pretty sad what's happening over there. We've lost California a long time ago. We lost New York, and Texas is going down because we need to properly educate people, and we need to get to millennials. We're pretty much sandwiched between Texas, California, New York, education is what got us into this mess. Education is the way to get us out of this mess. And Dennis and Alan and I have sat there at that table in 2011, and that was exactly what we said to each other. We have to give people the right answers without screaming. Just give them the education and let people make their own decision. The truth is unbelievably powerful, right? That is why they always want to censor us, which I'll get into censorship now. So Prager University has produced about 400 videos. 88 of our videos are currently restricted on the YouTube platform. And what does that mean?
Censorship.
I'm not sure I can even answer myself, really. What does that mean, and why our videos are censored? When we opened our channel in 2011 with YouTube, there was a contract that we all signed, and the contract says that there are certain community guidelines, and if you make videos that are pornographic or hate speech or advocate violence, then your video will be restricted, because in schools and parents and probably many of you in places of work, you don't want people consuming pornography. So somehow, over the years, Prager University became part of that pornographic portfolio at YouTube. Dennis Prager, incredibly good-looking man, unbelievably sexy. I'm not sure really what how they justify censoring our videos. But if you have a computer where you put restrictions so that your children or your employees don't see pornography, then Prager University, 88 of PragerU's videos will be restricted over there.
Wow.
We've approached them a few times, sent them emails saying, hey, what's going on? Must be a mistake. Must be a mistake. Why are these videos restricted? At first, we just got automatic responses, no real response, couldn't figure out what it was. Eventually, we started publicizing it. We started publicizing the petition, and former Governor Pete Wilson contacted us. And he said, listen, guys, you got to sue those bastards. Okay, Governor? It's like David versus Goliath here. PragerU, small group, small budget, 40 employees, not sure how we sue Google. I don't care, you got to sue us. For God and country, you got to get the word out. Whether you win the case or you don't win the case, there is a very important element which fits into the PragerU mission, which is to educate the public awareness. So at the very least, let's make sure that people know that when you go ahead, and notice that I'm going to use the word Google and YouTube synonymously because Google owns YouTube. Okay, so it's essentially the same company, right? So when you Google something, and think about how we use that word, hey mom, can you Google for me this or that? You always think that you will find all the information that's out there on the internet. You don't think that you will only find what's not restricted, what Google is okay with you seeing, right? That is how Google has basically taken over. They're not possibly, they are the biggest conveyor of communication in the world, and probably of all times. And they literally control what you can find on the internet and what you can see and what you cannot see. And allowing them to get away with it and not speaking about it, and not doing anything about it, is unbelievably irresponsible. So that was how Governor Pete Wilson convinced us to sue Google. And his firm has taken over the case. They are partially pro bono, so we had to raise the first $200,000 in order to pay some of the fees. And the rest of it, they're taking on. Everything else that we raise for the YouTube action is for public awareness. So, and as you know, public awareness is not cheap. We've produced videos on it, we've produced petitions on it, we've been talking about it. Where we are now in the case. So we filed October last year. We filed in California federal court. There is no precedent on this kind of matter. The internet is a whole new world when it comes to these issues of censorship. We are not advocating for more regulations. PragerU stands for small government, not big government. but we are advocating for fair practice, and this is a case of consumer fraud, and I'll explain why. Anybody have heard of the legal term public forum? Right. Public forum basically means that you abide by free speech laws. Okay, so when YouTube created its business, when it wrote its business plan and put it on their website and put it in their community guidelines and came to vendors like us and to viewers like you, they said, we have a public forum. Okay, they've advertised that they have a public forum. Okay, so if you're advertising that you have a public forum, then vendors will produce content with the understanding that as long as they abide by the community guidelines and the public forum guidelines, they should be able to build a business, and that's what we've done. We've built a business on the claim that they have a public forum. They've taken money from us, right? We've paid them for advertising, we paid them for growing our platform, and then one day they decide that even though they're a public forum, they're actually a private entity and they can do whatever the hell they want, okay? So that is essentially, and while still calling themselves a public forum. So it's it is consumer fraud. There is an example that our attorney taught me. I'm not an attorney, but I definitely got an education this past year. Our attorney, Peter, uses this example that has been very helpful to me. In California, there was a case a few years ago with Napa Valley Wine, Bronco Wines. Okay, Bronco Wines created a label that claimed that the grapes in the bottle were made out of Napa wines. Now, I guess there's something very special about Napa grapes. I guess there's something very special about Napa grapes. And if you're claiming that you have Napa grapes in your bottle, there better be Napa grapes in your bottle. But guess what? Bronco Company actually did not have Napa grapes in the bottle. It was actually Paso Robles grapes. So they claimed, here, would you like to buy this bottle with Napa grapes in it? Oh, okay. Actually, no, never mind. It's just puffery. It's not really Napa grapes. It's actually Paso Robles. But in our opinion, it's the same thing. And we can do whatever we want. So here you go. Obviously, they lost that lawsuit. And that is the same case that we're making here. If you're claiming that you're a public forum, don't do a switcheroo on us and not be a public forum. You either are a public forum or you're not a public forum. Otherwise, it's consumer fraud. Okay, so that is essentially the case that we filed in federal court. Where we are now, Judge Coe, of course, and we have to file in California because that's the jurisdiction, and Santa Clara, and I'm not going to say more about that. You can let your imagination go there and figure out why it's been such a challenge, and it's okay because we didn't think that it's not going to be a challenge, and we're kind of up for it. So she dismissed the case first without prejudice. Then we went back to her and said, okay, well, is there anything that we could show you that would change your mind because you're leaving this case possibly open? No, nothing. Okay, well, we actually have a testimony of someone from Google testifying in Congress to Senator Ted Cruz, where somebody from Google, it was either an attorney or somebody who was heading their PR, I think, said to Ted Cruz that they are a public forum, because he asked them, is it true that you are a public forum and you're censoring speech, you're censoring the speech of Prager University? And the person responded, the person from Google said, yes, we are a public forum. Okay, Judge Coe refused to take that testimony into her decision making and eventually dismissed the case with prejudice. So we appealed in the Ninth Circuit. What did we appeal on? The appeal is that Judge Coe claimed that YouTube saying that they are a public forum is mere puffery. Basically an exaggeration. It's like saying, oh, this is the best meal you'll ever have in your entire life. Well, we know that that's puffery, right? That's like an exaggeration and it's obvious, puffery. So her claim is that when YouTube says that they're a public forum, they're just kind of exaggerating for PR purposes. It's just puffery. It's not like a case of, this is Napa Valley grapes or not Napa Valley grapes. And there's more to learn about this from my attorneys. I can't go into the details there, but apparently that is really not for her to determine whether it's puffery or not, which is why we're in the night circus. Circuit.
It is
circus.
It is the night circus.
We're in the circus here. Totally, it is a circus. Okay, we are also going to file a state court claim in January, mostly similar business fraud, but in California it becomes even more interesting because of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing, breach of contract. Okay, the contract that was given to Prager University is given to other people, and many other people, and we are treated differently than others. So here's an example. There is a channel called, I'm trying to remember what it's called, it will come back to me. There's another channel that produces historical videos, and they're animated. These videos are about the Korean War and about the Iraq War, and you know, there's even a video there, I believe, on Israel, the history of Israel. Those videos are from a left-wing perspective, and they are not censored. Prager University's video on the Korean War is censored. Why is that? How is that not a breach of contract under the covenant of good faith and fair dealing? We are basically making the same product, animated videos on the Korean War. One's restricted, one is not restricted, and that is our case in state court with regard to breach of contract, and we will be filing that in January, so I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Judge Koh actually, in her response to our federal claim, mentioned that we should probably file in state court, so we'll be doing just that. A little bit more about censorship in general online. YouTube is not the only problem we have. In August, we had, on a given Friday, we posted 16 posts. Very bizarre situation. We have about 3 million followers on Facebook. What are the chances that we post 16 posts and not one person, nobody here in this room, engages in it, nobody watches it, nobody responds to it, nobody shares it? So yeah, some of you figured that out. It's shadow banning. I want to explain what shadow banning is because it really is actually more upsetting than restricting content. Restricting content, I think, is at least fair. At least I know what you're doing to me. I know that it's being restricted. Shadow banning is horrible fighting in the dark. Okay, you don't even know what's being done to you. On your point, from my perspective, my team has 3 million followers, right? We post the videos and everything looks fine, and we just wait. You know, maybe our content is a little boring today. Maybe people are not that interested. Like, I don't know what's going on. Is the video going to be seen or not going to be seen? Facebook basically has full authority to do whatever they want, and the only way you can catch them is if they do 100% shadow banning, meaning I posted it and they completely shadow ban it so nobody can actually see it. Imagine just a veil around your content. But what happens when the content is shadow banned only at 80% or 70%? I don't even know that I should be fighting back. I just think that something is bizarre. And that is why shadow banning, in my opinion, is even more dangerous than outright restricting or taking down content. You are literally fighting in the dark. You have no idea what's going on. Facebook made that mistake of pushing that shadow ban to 100%, which is how we caught them. So because we're large enough, we have about 5 million followers, between email addresses and phone numbers and all that. We started going crazy on them, and we went on Fox News and on every news channel and all of that. So then they reacted and they tweeted by Monday. So this is Friday through Monday, our entire platform being shadow banned. Finally on Monday they tweet out saying, "Oh, it was a mistake, sorry." We had an employee who didn't understand, who didn't go through the sensitivity training, and didn't quite understand what we meant by hate speech, and therefore the content was shadow banned. That was their answer. Okay, was that person fired? Did you send it back to training? Maybe you got a little reward. Who knows, right? And I also think one of the reasons they reacted is because, yes, we went to the press and all, but in addition to that, a petition started internally with employees at Facebook. Now, you think it's scary to be a Jewish Republican? Imagine what it's like to be a Facebook employee Republican, right? That's like a whole other level of fear over there. Yeah, not a easy job to have. A lot of them are definitely in the closet, and we do hear from them. We do hear from them occasionally, and what was interesting after that episode of our outright shadow ban that Friday, there was a petition, or there was a letter that was circulated amongst employees at Facebook, and about 100 started signing it, saying we have an ideological problem at Facebook. Something needs to change. And we kept pushing and pushing, asking more Facebook employees to come out of the closet. And we got to about 200 people who signed that internal petition. So that's pretty good. And then finally, on Twitter, we are not allowed to advertise. I don't have much more to say other than we can tweet, but we can't grow our platform there because they completely restrict us. We're not allowed to advertise because of what I call the snake of the SPLC. You all know what the SPLC is? Okay, the Southern Poverty Law Center. They claim to be a hate watch group, but they're actually a hate group. We've done a video on that, so you can check it out on PragerU.com. But essentially, all these leftist celebrities give all this money to the SPLC, thinking that they're doing all this great for the world. Meanwhile, anybody that goes onto the SPLC hate watch list literally is in danger. Actually, the day that we made it onto the hate watch list of the SPLC, I realized that we have to beef up security at the Prager University offices, because at the FRC, there was a shooting, and they shot their guard after they got placed on the SPLC hate watch list. So this is how crazy the system is. The actual group that's supposed to watch out for hate groups is actually putting people in danger by putting us on their list and claiming that we're a hate group. We're a hate group? What are we doing that's so hateful? What is it that we're doing that's so hateful? I'll tell you what we're doing. We're changing minds, and that scares the crap out of them. That scares the crap out of them. Because we are actually now a threat. So now that we're actually a threat, and we're actually changing minds and opening young minds, and we're going into territories that they are very, very uncomfortable, because they've had a stronghold on young people for a very long time, and influencing young people. We're signing on. Candace Owens has already done a lot of work with us. We're probably going to do a show with her this coming year. They hate that we're doing this kind of stuff. We're going into their space. Candace Owens.
Charlie Short.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I can go on and on. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of what's happening next year. Okay, 2019. What's the plan? So we have an incredible executive team. We've come up with a strategic plan for the next few years. Our budget at Prager University has grown, thank God, tremendously. 3 years ago, we were at $5 million. Last year, we were at $10 million. This year, we're going to be $15 million. Next year, hopefully 20, unless we get a little bit more help from those who believe in us. And hopefully, as soon as we get to 30 million, we can fight Al Jazeera properly and carpet bomb the internet with the truth. We're hoping to make content for Hulu. How awesome would it be to see PragerU content on Hulu, Amazon Watch, just diversifying our content, doing things other than 5-minute videos. We're making pulse videos, which are short 30-second info videos about the truth. We're going to be doing more interviews. Dennis does a fireside chat, which is a 30-minute show once a week. We're going to do multiple shows. I want to have a show with Candace Owens, who I mentioned. She's leading Blexit, the Black Exit from the so we're going to do a show with her. It's probably going to be called The Crossover, having her converse with people from the other side. So we have Will Witt, who does this young man on the street. You may have seen some of his videos where he walks around Central Park asking, "Do you have any? Are you an inclusive person?" Yes. Do you have any Republican friends? No. Okay. How inclusive are you really? Very tolerant. So that's the type of stuff we do. Just diverse content. We want to make stuff. First of all, being a conservative is cool, and we want to make it cool. We might want to make it easy for people to get involved, whether watch a 5-minute video, if that's too much time, watch a short little clip with Will Witt or a Pulse video. So those are all kinds of things in the strategic plan, but overall the vision is to level the playing field. So we have the same presence that the left has, so that at the very least we can let our ideas win. But if our ideas are not out there, how do we win? Right? So PragerU is the tip of the spear, trying to get to as many people as possible, as fast as possible, in the most efficient way as possible. And how you can help, it's not just with funding. It's actually sticking your neck out. Post our videos on your Facebook feed. I know it's hard, you might lose some friends, but better have 10 good friends than 1,000 fake friends. So that is one thing you can do. Helping us get more emails. We want to become more independent of these platforms like Facebook and Twitter and all of those. And the way to become more independent is for us to be able to communicate with people directly, like through your phone. So you can subscribe to receive text messages from us when our content is available. Or you can get your friends to give us their emails. I know you can see our content by just going to our website. I know you can see our content by just checking it out on Facebook, but emails are very valuable to us. If you can't give us $500, you can give us $250 by just getting us 500 subscribers. You know 500 friends who could become subscribers to PragerU? They don't have to be conservatives. They just need to be open-minded. You know, just open to another point of view. That's another way that you can help us out.
We can just give you the emails?
Just have them, no, you've got to send them an email and say, will you do me a favor for Hanukkah? How about you subscribe? You know, don't buy me a gift this year. I don't really need another coffee bean card. Just, you know, yeah, just subscribe. You can pay your children to watch our videos. A lot of people do that. It's worth it. It's a worthwhile investment. Our videos are specifically targeted to reach a wide range of people. Some videos are, you know, every person is different and every teenager is different. There are some more mature and some less mature and some more interested and less interested. But I can assure you that amongst the 400 videos that we have, there are a handful of ones that you can show even to a 12th grader. So it just kind of depends on what their interests are. But there are lots of different, there are lots of different topics, and not everything is political, which is, by the way, why we have such a diverse audience. We have a video for parents on vitamin N. Do you know what vitamin N? You know, vitamin, right? John Rosemond. The most important vitamin you can give your child is vitamin N, right? Vitamin no. Say no to that, right? So you know, if you have a daughter that's raising children, that's not political. You can share that with her or with your son. So there's a lot of we have a video on forgiveness. Okay, so lots of other examples are out there. I know I'm running out of time. Do I do Q&A now, or did I speak through that too?
You had one more video you wanted to show?
You know, I do have another video, but I feel like I should just do the Q&A. This video is available on the website. I was going to show you the American Trinity, which is one of my favorite videos and is the basic principle of Prager University. But maybe we'll do questions, and if we have more time, we can show that video. Otherwise, you can always go home and check it out on your phone.